I built my dream home for under 500k. I'm Josh, a builder here in New Zealand, and I took a year off work to build my family home on a tough section that nobody wanted. So day one, every plan, it seems to be 2 steps forward and 1 step back. In this video here, I will show you the entire building process start to finish, including time lapses. The Prime Minister of New Zealand announced a 4-week nationwide shutdown. We will break down some of the key details. I don't want to be one of those builders that moves into a place and still has 1,000 jobs that I just procrastinate forever. And stick around to the end of the video where we'll discuss the full cost of this build. Everyone has come to look at this. Every builder, every man and his dog, and been scared off for one reason or another. Just standing on the section we locked in unconditional. 1,600 square metres in a nice suburb in Upper Hutt, but it's a tough site. So real early on we coined the saying, the section nobody wanted. There was a number of issues with the site that I could see had put a lot of people off in the past. It was on a slope, it was accessed from a right-of-way, and there was a very tight dog leg at the start. That right-of-way was also shared with 2 other houses behind the site. There was a number of drainage easements running through the middle of the site, which restricted your building platform even more. There was a set of power lines feeding the neighbour's house running across the site that needed to be dropped and laid in the ground, and there was a protected totara tree right at the top of the section where we would ideally have put our garage. So downstairs we're going to build a basement garage which makes the most of the natural flow of the land, and next to that we're going to build a studio, and then we're going to have the main house upstairs, all one level. Upstairs will be a pretty normal 3-bedroom 2-living house. We really wanted to make the most of the orientation of the section and capturing that north facing sun. We've got 2 large outdoor spaces, both north facing, both will get that midday sun right through to early evening. So yeah, that's what we're planning to build, and that is a result of the initial concept phase with Prime Designs. We are also well and truly through the working drawings for building consent. We've been making decisions around the best way to put those drawings together to really make the build as smooth as possible. Morning, just to the section with the boys. My very first job, joy to the world, I get to mow the lawns. Because it'd been sitting there empty for years and years and years, I had the lawnmower on the longest setting and I didn't have a catcher on it, but it was going pretty good. Got to this last little bit where there's a bank going 2 ways, was pushing up and slipped, and my foot went right under and made the classic noise that you hear when you run over a stick or a twig. And the pain was immediate and excruciating.
Broken bone under an open wound, and you always have to be a bit careful with that. So I've asked the orthopedic reg to come and look at it. So he'll look at it.
Yes, I had shoes on. They were actually trail running shoes. Most crazy thing is that right on the toe that got cut, it says toe protect. Had to have surgery. They were literally picking out shoe and grass out of the knuckle in my toe. Got stitched up and then had to spend 4 weeks in a moon boot off my feet. Pretty rough start, and hoping that this wasn't going to be a bad omen for the entire job. you know, even though I've been through this quite a few times now, I still found myself surprised at how long things take and how many things you have to line up, and also how many decisions you need to make so early on before you can even see or touch anything on site. You're deciding down to some pretty fine details about products you're going to use, how it's going to look, and you have to get that all on the plans. We forgot about like lead times with people like engineers and pre-nailers, and how, you know, a couple of days delay here just has a flow-on effect. Plans are ready to go in. Look at this stack of paper that for every single consent that you submit, you have to include probably about 6 trees.
Lovely.
So you probably don't need anything else, it's all there?
No, just all that, and I'll get that through to the team.
Cool, thank you.
Wonderful.
The digger's here. What I've been setting up here is called a story rod. When you're working with slopes and wide sites, it's good to set up a board and mark your heights, and obviously double, triple check it. There's a laser over there. And now I can go around and shoot some heights. Here in the Earthworks plan, you can see where we have to do a basement garage cut level at 70.675, and our upstairs cut in the back corner here, we need to do at 72.925. It also shows you the batters we're putting on these. You can also see here the drip line of the protected tree, and this was a no-go zone throughout the build. I started setting the house out this week, and man, it is the hardest set out I have done. There is not a single straight boundary to work off. The profile over in this corner is 3.3 meters out of the ground, and there's way too many corners on the house. Every 1200 mils or 4 feet, I am marking one of these, and that's where I've got to dig a hole for the retaining post. One of the things that got picked up really early on was that this was an old gully that a bunch of fill had got pushed into. In some instances, good ground was 4 meters down. We worked with the engineer and we came up with a plan where we decided to drill 450 mil holes, go all the way down to good ground, then fill those with concrete, and then put a standard house piling system on top of that. 57 holes. 57 holes I've had to drill on the site. Check out this. This bar is 4 meters long. The earthworks are officially finished, and now we can start the preparations for the foundation. I am absolutely shattered, man. It's been a couple of long days and my body is not used to it. Another week on site. A successful week. I've passed 2 inspections. I've passed my siting inspection, and I have passed my first engineer's inspection. So he was happy with the depth of the holes that we've drilled, and we are good to start our foundation works. Because of the nature of the site, the slopes, and the style of house we're building, we opted for a timber subfloor. However, we did pour a concrete slab for the garage. Here we are getting piles ready. There's the piles, and I'm sitting on a stack of timber, first delivery. It's a wet Monday morning here on site, I absolutely hated working in the rain when I was an apprentice, and now I'm out here slaving away. It was wet, it was pouring down, but we had these 50 holes and they were drilled, and I had to make a call on whether to pour them or not. It's crazy when you're an apprentice and you're like, oh, the rain, you can't be bothered, and then when it's your own site and you're like involved, somehow you just get out here and do it. The rain just makes things so hard. It just makes like a normal job literally 3 times harder. Even at the end of the day, I had to like empty my toolbox, empty my tools, dry them all out. That wasn't fun either. It's just kind of like, it's not over when you get home. Every plan, it seems to be 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and I haven't encountered that for a long time. But then I've got to remind myself that this is not just your like typical flat subdivision, just bang it up. It is a complicated site, it's a complicated design, and it's going to take a bit of thinking. As soon as all of the 57 holes were drilled and filled, we were able to crack on with building the concrete garage foundations. So we're boxing up the garage slab. That means that we create a hard surface for the concrete to finish to. So we're down over here, down in there. It was about 60 square meters, and it was a traditional 3604 slab with a footing around the perimeter, had a bunch of piles in the footing, and had 4 piles in the middle of the garage slab to take any car loading or anything else you're doing in the garage. Yesterday was just one of those insane days where everything right from the start went wrong. I hired compactor and then went to pull it to start, and the starter cord was broken. So that was an hour of wasted time going getting a new one. Then I was backing the trailer at the house where I'm staying and clipped the neighbour's letterbox. So spent another hour fixing that, and then we went to start the steel last night and realised that they had sent all the wrong steel. This 66 square metre slab passed 2 inspections yesterday, and we are now good to pour concrete. So all things considered, the fact that we only got our consent 2 weeks ago and we're about to pour concrete is a massive achievement and a big milestone for the site. It means that we're going to have a hard finished surface to work off, and the build will start to get out of the ground, and that's where you start to get out of the unknown territory and into the known. One of the unexpected joys of vlogging my build was the factory tours that popped up along the way. One of the ones I remember the most is the pre-nail visit. So we made the trip out to the Kapiti coast to see how they were fabricated off-site. You can look at the whole house in 3D, right?
Well, that's the whole thing there, yeah, and I can put the trusses on for you.
Yeah. Even looking at like what the detailer did and how he gets it into the computer program, and the fact that we could turn the house around in every which angle and look at every stud, dwang and block, it definitely has given me more of an appreciation for what goes into those sets of frames that turn up to site. This is the subfloor framing for what's going to be a little 20 square meter studio hanging off the front of our house. As we're building the lower level frames, we needed to install a big steel beam over the middle of the garage. The reason for this is that the mid-floor was made with timber joists and they couldn't span the full 7 meters that the garage was. So we put the steel beam in the middle and then we run our joists into that, and that takes all of that mid-floor load and sends it to the edges of the building and then down to the foundation. Just got a phone call to say the steel beam for our garage is ready. We could probably lift this beam if we really tried. I mean, it's only 150 kgs, but the truck was coming past and ITM was more than willing to help. Cheers ITM, really appreciate it. It's in. Its steel beam is in. That literally took less than 5 minutes and would have taken us so much longer if we were trying to manhandle it ourselves. Thanks again ITM. Cheers. So steel beams in, and we can now crack on with the rest of our bearers and joists on the upstairs floor. And the last step to complete is flooring sheets. I'm standing on the final floor for the house. With only a couple of days before Christmas, we got the floor finished, an amazing milestone considering that we only started building 9 weeks ago and we've had our fair share of challenges. So what I'm building here is a timber framed building, and here in New Zealand that is the most common way to build, and that's for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, it is because we are a small island nation that has a plethora of sustainable forests growing here specifically for construction. The other thing is that New Zealand is reasonably earthquake prone, and timber frame buildings stand up to earthquakes really well. Also, we don't have a termite problem here, and we really don't have that many houses catching fire and burning down the way they used to in the early 1900s. Our timber is also treated against fungal decay and rot, and that's why our internal framing timber sometimes looks pink. Frames are up, nets are in, scaffolding's done. We can now crack on with the roof framing. We have two types of roofs here. We have an 8-degree rafter roof at the front and a 5-degree truss roof at the back. There's the roof, roofing iron due to go on tomorrow. These are called purlins here. These here are called trusses. Over there you can see the skylight box we've had to form. This is our hallway, and you can see there that will be one of the skylights that we are installing, and that will actually showcase our protected tree. That is the front roof over the lounge. There's another tree that we're not allowed to touch, but it looks pretty amazing. Another massive milestone ticked off in the build. A huge amount of work dealing with the odd shape of the building because of the easements and because of the weird shape of the section. I counted up the other day, it has 18 corners on the exterior, and each corner adds so much more work. Like literally, I reckon every corner adds another couple of days of work that wouldn't be there if you just had this, you know, normal boxed shaped house. Here in New Zealand, most roofs are corrugated iron. This one here is a profile called MC700. It is a trapezoidal product. You can see here the roof detail is a mix of areas with overhangs, especially around openings, and no eaves where the cladding goes all the way up to the roofline. We've gone from earthworks to slab to frames up, roof trusses, and now we have a roof. Once we got the roof on, we could crack on with RAB board. On this job here, we used a Hardy's 4.5mm product called Home Rab. It's basically like a solid skin around the whole building. It's like a first cladding. Big milestone at this section nobody wanted. Just about to cut my last sheet of RAB. Here's the building, all wrapped up. In the lounge, I'll show you, there's a sliding door. The architect was up here on the weekend, and we all decided that it would be better to move it a metre to the right to get more of the views of the hill. Pretty much, I'm going to spend the morning unpicking some of the work we did last week and putting it back together. Usually reaching lockup is a massive and exciting milestone. This time has been a little bit different, however. The last few days have been a mad, frantic rush to get everything in place to close down and walk away.
From 11:59 p.m. tonight, we will close our border to any non-residents and citizens attempting to travel here.
As most of you know, on Monday afternoon, the Prime Minister of New Zealand announced a 4-week nationwide shutdown. And so pretty much 1:30, everything that I had organised on this build went out the window, and we went into close-downing mode. I remember the week before lockdown, it was progressively getting worse and we were trying to stack up all the materials and all the orders we could to carry the project on for the unknown future. Now that we have to walk away from this build and the timeline is super unknown, I'm so glad that I made the decision to install Rabboard. It means that our house is fully weather tight and this stuff can stand up to 180 days in the weather. I'm pretty confident I can get the cladding on before then. Obviously I didn't know how long lockdown was going to take. At first they announced it for 4 weeks, that ended up stretching out to 6, and then we were able to go back to work on a really limited capacity. Lockdown was definitely a bit of a shock. You know what else is a shock? That only 22% of you are subscribed. What are the other 78% of you up to? Go ahead, click subscribe, it really does help us out. Morning, first day back to work. Decided to ride the bike up today. One less car on site. Planning to get the weatherboard on and get the house fully closed in. We used a mix of linear, oblique, skinny, wide pattern and a timber cladding from a sustainable forest down south. Just about to head home, very long day on site. Finished this wall here, and this wall here, and so tomorrow we're going to move around the back and start cladding over there. This wall here is already finished and painted. Spouting on, doors in, we're going to have a light either side of the door, an up down light, and then we've got those screws there we've pre-bolted for the deck. Painted a few walls over the weekend. This is what it's going to start looking like. Pretty happy with how it's coming up. A few more things to do on this wall before we can finish that off, and we'll be dropping the scaffold soon. That'll be exciting. The timber weatherboard was laid horizontally and had a brushed finish. The cedar stain on this combined with the dark look of the linear oblique really made the house pop, considering it was surrounded by so much greenery. We had a kitchen measure up on site. Really early on we identified that the U-shaped peninsula didn't work and we wanted an island bench that we could walk the entire way around. So mocked that up on site, came up with some ideas to really elevate the space, but more importantly make it functional.
It's essentially what you can sort of look at with a bin here, just a plain drawer underneath. In here you got like a magic corner or something, so that pulls out.
Yo, so I'm just on site with Adam, cool cat.
How's it going? We've just done a pre-pipe here for a heat pump. We're going for a 8 kilowatt Mitsubishi Electric.
Up there, it will be.
Runs.
Stairs have arrived. A little bit more work to do here. It is so good to have a set of stairs in. This is going to be our big front door unit here. So the door is 2.2 meters high, and then we have a big pane of glass above it, as well as a skylight in the entranceway here. Today's exciting job, super exciting, we get to install a house loader back. We used a fiberglass product called Pink Bats and I installed this myself. In my experience building homes, one of the best bang for buck upgrades you can include early on is insulation. And it really does make a difference to the comfort of the house you're living in. Today we have the beginning of another milestone. We have another delivery arriving in about 2 hours. Now we can line the walls with jib plasterboard. For this job here, I got in a crew for 2 reasons. I was busy continuing to work on other areas of the house and they just smashed it out. Getting the jib on the walls is one of those immensely satisfying stages of the build. It's where it turns from this timber framing that you've been looking at for months to all of a sudden there's a wall that you can touch. I've got the plasterer arriving tomorrow morning, Monday, and I didn't want to lose that slot, so I have worked 6 days and 2 nights to get this house ready for the plasterer to arrive. This is our lounge over here, this is our kitchen here. So this room here will be the second lounge. We have paint on the walls, doors, skirtings, architraves. Painters are just finishing up now and we will have reached another milestone on the section nobody wanted. We are dropping the scaffold. And of course the day we plan to do this, it starts to rain. Painting is all complete and the Sparkies have finished a lot of their work, so the very next step is hard flooring. So that includes a wooden overlay that we have purchased and it also includes tiles. There's 6 of us on site and we are going hard installing tiles and flooring. We have 900 meters of this beach overlay to go down. I loved being a carpenter, I love timber, I love the look of it, I love the feel of it, and so it was a natural choice for me to do my interior floor with timber. However, I didn't realize it was going to take me 200 hours. We've got tiles. After months of toiling away, we're finally at the stage where this house is starting to come together. Light switches. You can turn them around and angle them where you want them. Pretty cool. Tuesday afternoon and we are in the stairwell today putting on the white faces. We put the kitchen cabinets in and we measure up our stone bench. It's all happening today. We've got the digger driver, got a couple of builders inside, got some boys downstairs doing a deck. Everything that you've been planning and working towards is starting to come together. A car goes here. Yeah. Perfect cut. I don't want to be one of those builders that moves into a place and still has 1,000 jobs that I just procrastinate forever. On top of all of this, a fireplace is a really important thing to me. It doesn't feel like home if it doesn't have a fireplace. I chose a pyroclastic fire and also chose for it to have a wetback because I was on a efficiency buzz. Halfway through that process, I realized that the fire needed a 20mm insulating board under it so that the floor framing didn't catch fire. I wrongly assumed that I could just use a 6mm steel plate like my old fire that I installed, but this one we need to put a 20mm layer of non-combustible surface.
Nice and light though.
Yeah, real light. You go. So that'll form an edge for the tiles rather than using the aluminium edging. We've formed a custom made wooden trim. Next steps is the roofer is going to cut a hole in the roof and put a flashing all the way to the ridge there, and that will keep the water out, and then we poke the chimney through. Tomorrow we are attacking this area here. This is the study nook. Just finished cutting the plywood for the shelf upstairs. We've got the shelves on the wall, the desk is in. I'm going to put a coat of oil over everything tonight, and we'll just touch up some of the marks we've left on the wall. Yo, it's Friday morning. I've got the plumber and I've got the sparky here, and it's been a morning of tying up loose ends. We've been doing the kitchen range hood, the island light, the heated towel rails. Although we've already moved in, I've written a list for every single room, and I'm adamant that we are going to get this place 100% finished. To build the deck off the front, we had to get this huge big portal that straddled the studio and sent all of the deck load to either side. The steel beam's in and we've started the joists. Let's head up there and have a look. Feels like it's been a long time coming, but we are finally laying the decking. Let's crack on. We've managed to lay about half of it. We're going to continue to attack this part. It's looking awesome. The hidden fixing, loving the look of that as well. Let's keep laying. Let's just say sloping sides are a lot of work. We've been living here for 3 months now, and we still have the wrapper on our front door. I think it's time to remove it. Our metal balustrade is finally on site, and it marks one of the last jobs we need to do for code of compliance. We got these aluminium fins made in Auckland and sent down. So it's pretty light, eh? And we're going to do a little bit more landscaping, get the kids' fort a little bit more safe, get it finished, get the balustrade up. Yeah, just chunking away at a lot of those little jobs that have been lingering and just really want to get it finished and out of my head. Hey, this area is starting to look mint. It's a lot of work, but we're getting there. So this morning we got this floor squared. We're also doing some work up here on the driveway. What I'm going to do today is we're going to fill up some of the planter boxes down the bottom. It's all those little things that take it from a building site to a finished product. It's crazy that it's taken this long to do it. Over here we've built like a little garden box, and then just up there we're doing an edge. We're going to carry the grisolinias along. We're just going to do this feature area with a bunch of different size golf ball pittosporums, so they're kind of like staggered random, and then when you walk up the drive you see that. We've got the firewood shed there, and we've got the work from home office there. Boom, we got a set of stairs from the top level to the bottom level, almost ready. So much work in this kind of stuff. Now I'll be able to drive straight up to my wood. Over here I'm going to build my very own mini ramp. Only 20 years overdue from when I wish I could build one. If you're thinking of undertaking a similar project and not sure where to start, check out the link below for a bunch of new build resources we have just for you. I've had a chance to reflect on some of the things I would do differently. First up, an obvious one, I'd probably wear steel caps when mowing the lawn. As well as this, while I've got a digger on site doing a bunch of heavy earthworks, I would think a lot more about the landscaping phase while there's no building in the way. I had to move a ton of stuff by hand because I waited for the building to be in place to think about how the building interacted with the land. I honestly probably wouldn't do the wetback again. I think that this ended up being a lot of faff, and I love the pyroclastic fire. It is New Zealand's most efficient fire. It cranks, but I'd probably lift it a little bit higher, and that would mean that I could get some wood storage underneath. It would mean it would be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing to look at, especially in a high stud room. I would rethink doing a timber subfloor, and I'd look at using a fiber cement sheet product or something that like deadens some of the sound. There's 4 boys in the house right now, and we're constantly getting told off for having elephant feet. Stomp, 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 stomp. You can hear it from one end of the house to the other, and the noise just travels. I would probably make all of the internal doors solid core, so that, again, deadening the noise. I probably wouldn't do a timber overlay floor the way I did. I would look at some alternatives, but some of the things I would definitely do again, I would definitely do the home ramp. I'd definitely do the upgrade of the installation. I would do the skylights. I would do the highest stud. Halfway through the build, we changed all of the internal joinery to match the external joinery, so all of our joinery height is 2.2 meters. Would do that again, for sure. We also changed some window framings on site once it was built. Real happy with those kind of decisions. A lot of people have asked, how do I have the skills to do this? And I think that's 2 things. First up, you got to be a builder. And so in New Zealand, you do a building apprenticeship. You work for a builder for 3 or 4 years, and you learn a bunch of this stuff. I first started doing this work when I was 25. I took on this project in 2019 when I was 34. So I'd been in the game for about 9 years before I had the guts to take on this section myself. In that time, I'd built a bunch of houses for different people. I'd been on a bunch of different sites. And so each site and each build I'd been on gave me the experience to draw on to do the next thing, which did the next thing. I took different experiences from different sites and combined them together to work through the plans. Once the plans were done, it's just like building a Lego set. You just have to follow the plan. So you have to have the physical skills to be a builder, and you get that from working on building sites, but you also have to have the experience and knowledge, and you get that from taking on a variety of projects. You have to have the capacity, the brain power. A project like this requires a huge amount of decisions, lots of lying in bed at night thinking, am I going to do the cut here or here? And how am I going to connect that to this? And so to have that capacity, I took the year off work. And it wasn't just about being physically on site to build, it was about mentally that project being my sole goal and doing that to the best of my ability. Lastly though, I needed the financial resources to bankroll something like this. And so I bought my first home when I was 19, and it was a rental, and I never ever lived in it. And I held it all the time through my 20s while I was traveling. And then we bought a family home when my son was 2. In 2018, I was running a building company, and I was getting better and better and taking on more deals, and I had done a few of my own speckies. We sold everything and put the cash into a bank account and then used that cash to build this house. That little pot of gold was about 800K. That was my life savings at the time, no bank loans. That was my fixed limit to build this house. Before we jump into the figures of the build, 2 quick disclaimers. Number 1, this is back in 2019, pre-COVID prices. At the time, build rates were anywhere from 2.5 grand a square meter to 3K a square meter. Obviously that includes builder's time, management time, builder's margin. Obviously, I was able to save a lot of that stuff. And second thing is that I was already in the industry, already had a really good reputation with a bunch of suppliers, and was kicking off this YouTube channel. And so using this channel and my reputation, I was able to negotiate a bunch of really, really good deals on product. Obviously, there's a lot of items that go into a full breakdown. Today, we're going to do a high-level run over of some of the main costs. We spent 265K on the section, and I put 30K on top of that, a side to fix the drainage issues and the power line. I think I did that all up for about 15K. Solved all the sections issues. So let's say we're all in, including lawyers' fees and all of that stuff, for about 285. Now that's a lot of money, but at the time, a small 400 square meter section in central Upper Hutt was going for about 400K. So for the low price of 285, I got a 1600 square meter section in a really nice suburb that I now needed to do plans for. So plans is design fees, engineer fees, council fees, all up, that was about 25K. Obviously, again, I'm leaning on as many people as I can to get it through. Excavation was 6K, drilled piles was 8K. A 66 meter slab cost 7.5 grand. Mid-floor materials and labor, I got a couple of guys in to help me, cost 24 grand. Frames were $22,000. Spouting and roofing was $19,000. Building materials, including cladding, was $70,000. I got a deal from Hardy's on that. Stairs were $2,000. Insulation was $5,500, but Pink Bats gave that all to me. Garage door was $2.5 grand. Windows were $21,000. Electrical was $22,000. Plumbing was $15,000. The gas Infinity and gas fitter downstairs cost $2,000. Drainage cost 7.5 grand. The heat pump cost 3.5 grand. The ducted system cost 2.5 grand. The fire and the wetback cost $5,200. The plastering inside was 6.5 grand. We spent $1,200 to paint the outside ourselves, and we spent $12,000 to pay the painter to do the inside. Doors was 7.5 grand. The kitchen was $20,000. The appliances were $6,000, $7,200 on carpet, $7,500 on tiles, $2,300 on shower glass. The wooden flooring was $8,000 and 200 hours labor and $1,000 of glue. Bathroom fittings was $10,000, $7,500 on concrete driveways, $6,000 on the landscaping planter box at the start, $18,000 on the deck, $2,000 on blinds, $3,000 on wardrobes. The steel portal for the deck cost $2,000. The steel beam for the garage cost $800. Bearing in mind that does include all of the landscaping work that carried on after the fact. That was probably like another 50K of product. Again, all my time was free. All up at the start, I had just under 800K. It was 265 for the section. It was around 465 for the build and everything else. The final product valued up in the mid ones, and I was stoked with it. The process of building a house start to finish for yourself is so rewarding, so taxing. It's such a big journey, but has really kicked off this YouTube channel, kicked off my building company, and I'm about to do it all over again on a whole new section. And I'll give you a sneak preview of that right now. Introducing that build up there. Nestled into the hill and surrounded by Rimu and Manuka, it has an amazing view of the Hutt Valley and the Tararua. We are going to do a weekly on-site vlog explaining the process. On top of that, we'll include a monthly deep dive with a key partner. For example, we will visit the factory and see where the product's being made and then document that coming to site and being installed in our beautiful home. We'll also do a weekly reel on TikTok highlighting a collab with one of our partners, and we'll continue to post photos and stories to our Instagram. Yo, you've made it all the way to the end, and now this is your special message just for you because you got here. Fist pump, thanks so much. It's viewers like you that boost our numbers and keep us making stuff like this. I just want to say that I love what I get to do. I love building houses, I love filming it, and I love showing you it. It's a truly rewarding process. And so I would really encourage you, you're obviously into stuff like this, find a way to make your dream, your project come to life. Take this huge big thing and break it into little bite-sized chunks. Ask yourself, how can I? How can I do X, Y, Z? How can I get the money? How can I solve the problems on this site? How can I bring this vision to reality? The crazy thing is your brain is so smart. And when you ask it a question, while you're going about your day, while you're driving, while you're working, while you're digging holes, your brain is working away. And all of a sudden you'll have this aha moment and your mind will be like, this is how you do it. And then the next thing you do, the moment your brain says, do this, you've got to write it down. And then you've got to get in there and you've got to give it a go. And obviously day one of this site, I cut my foot It's a big step backwards, and any big project I've done is always 5 steps forward, 1 step back. Don't get disheartened when you take that first step forward and you get knocked back straight away, like I did with the lawnmower on day 1. You got to keep showing up, you got to keep stepping forward. And a house like this, any building project, is an accumulation of 1,000 little steps. Remember, 1,000 little steps adds up to be a massive thing. Take the first step today, tell everyone about this video, comment below. You are awesome.